And this project, it's another bowl. Agba this time. First time I've ever turned Agba, and I've done a fairly thick wall thickness of about 20mm. So keep watching to see how I turned this. I'm starting off here with an 8-inch piece of Agba, and I've never ever turned Agba before in my life. So the first thing I had to do was just had a quick look on Google just to see what I could find out about the wood, and it's another African wood, I believe probably more from the West African coast. Turning this, I really didn't know what to expect. It was sort of quite dusty as you were turning it, didn't really get any great shavings off it. I seem to have got into a bit of a routine the way I deal with bowls now. First thing, where you've got a proper bowl blank like this, just face off the bottom. Then I just use the calipers to mark out for where I'm going to either put my mortise or tenon. In this case I'm going to do a tenon. And from there I then start truing up the outside and doing all the outside shape. Working the way through this, I mean the wood did look fairly plain and boring. I thought I'd just carry on. Decided to go for a rounded bottom shape. Once I got all that done, it was then just on with all the sanding, and it was here with the sanding that I probably found that the wood was a little bit oily, and the best way I can describe that is I've turned some teak in the past, and that was very much similar to it as well. Now, it wasn't until I put the sanding sealer on that then really the wood did come alive, and at this point I thought this is looking amazing. So after the sanding sealer, Yorkshire Grit, Woodwax22, and you can buff that off almost straight away. Leave it then a good 15 minutes before you then put on the microcrystalline wax, which then requires about 20 minutes before you buff that off. What I've also found as well though with the waxes, the longer you leave them, you don't get any really sort of fingerprint marks on there or any dust collecting to it. Reversed onto the chuck, faceplate off, and then pollen. Now with the way this wood looked, I really wanted to make the most of it, and I decided to go for a fairly thick rimmed bowl. Constantly taking measurements with the calipers, I was aiming for a 20mm wall thickness throughout. In with the sanding again. Sanding wasn't too bad. I had to sort of like touch up once or twice with the scraper just to level the bottom out properly. Once all the sanding was done, sanding sealer, Yorkshire Grit, Woodwax22 and the microcrystalline wax. I then just mounted the bowl on a friction chuck, and this is just separated with a piece of foam on the backboard there, and just slowly working away just to take out that whole tenon. Aiming for a totally flat base here. It will be a little concave so it always sits nicely. once I've got rid of most of the tenon there, just left the nub there, which I would sand down afterwards. Off camera, just then signed the bottom as I normally do, sanding sealer. Initially I just put Woodwax22 here, which is shown here on camera, but off camera I did then give it some microcrystalline wax later on. Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. Yes, it's another bowl and there's still probably a few more bowls to follow this one. This time Agba. It's the very first time I've ever turned Agba and I've got to say, very impressed. Now, I mean, I don't know whether it will show up on the camera or not, but the chatoyance in this is absolutely unbelievable. It really is. I've decided to go for a chunky bowl. It's 20mm right the way throughout, and the base is also took back, so there's no foot, it's flat. It's a little bit concave, so it does sit properly. I've sanded this to something like about 240. Sanding sealer, Yorkshire Grit, Woodwax22 and microcrystalline wax. It was quite dusty to turn, even though at times when I turned the back off here, because I was taking quite thick cuts, it was giving some reasonable shavings. But the best way I can probably describe it as well is a while ago I turned some teak. You noticed it more when you're sanding it. It seemed very oily, but this is obviously bone dry, but it just seemed to have like an oil content in it. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you on the next project video.